Thank you, Patrick. Now he's a chief market strategist for Ameriprise and frequent business news commentator for networks like Bloomberg TV, CNBC, and Fox Business. David Joy is in town to speak to Cetenary MBA students today, and he joins us this morning. Thank you, David, for joining us.
My pleasure.
And we were just talking about the NASDAQ. It hit a historic high last week. What does that mean for us nationally and then here in the Arklatex?
Well, it's taken the NASDAQ 15 years to get back to this level. The first thing I think we need to understand is this is a very different NASDAQ than it was 15 years ago. Back then you had the internet bubble. People didn't know how to value these stocks and they got overly exuberant. Now the NASDAQ is made up of far more mature companies, and the fact that it is finally reaching a new high, I think, is bringing a little bit more attention to that fact. NASDAQ, I think it should be part of everyone's portfolio. If you look at the big names that are in it, Google, Apple, you know, big important stocks. And so the 5,000 level, in and of itself, not so important, but the fact that we've recovered all that lost ground is nice to see.
And seeing that we're recovering that lost ground, what does that mean for investors? Is this a time to jump into this market and kind of take advantage?
Well, I think the stock market is in for a little bit of a bumpy ride here in the next couple of months because the Federal Reserve is getting ready to raise interest rates, and typically that causes some volatility in stocks. But the U.S. economy is growing, and those companies that dominate the NASDAQ are growing as well. And so, as I say, I think if you're an investor in it, stay in it. If you're thinking of putting new money in, you might want to take your time a little bit, but I wouldn't necessarily stay on the sidelines forever because the economy is growing.
Exactly, and before this interview I was trying to pick his brain, trying to gather as much knowledge as possible, and we were talking about the oil industry and kind of with the Middle East, the conflict that's happening. How does that affect us here in the Arklatex?
Well, so far I would say the impact has been quite minimal. Excuse me, the unrest in the Middle East has yet to really translate into a loss of supply, except in a few places, Libya being an obvious example. But ISIS itself, for example, has not led to any decline in supply. So if you look at the global energy market, there is way too much supply, big imbalance given demand. And so I think it's just going to take a while. OPEC has said we're not going to decline our production, but you're not seeing any real uptick yet in rig activity in this area because prices haven't recovered. That's going to take a little while.
Exactly. I know. I've been watching that closely. Now, the reason why you're here in the Arklatex today is you're going to be visiting Cetenary College. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we have, my company is Ameriprise Financial. We're headquartered up in Minneapolis, but we have a big presence in the area. And one of our well-known advisors, Mark McCrocklin, is an alum of the MBA program in Cetenary. And so I've come down here for a number of years, and one of the stops we make during the day is to speak to their alumni group as well as to an MBA class. And it's an enjoyable part of the day for me, and I look forward to it.
Okay, you're going to have to tell me the building and the room number I want to sneak into that class today, David.
I don't know the answer to either one of those. They take me over there and point me in the right direction.
All right, I'm just going to follow you then. All right, David, thank you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
And we want you to stay with us. Patrick's going to be back with a full check of your forecast coming up next.